Your routine makes no sense. You eat meals at strange hours that make sense only to you. You sleep when you're tired, not when it's night. Your version of productivity looks nothing like anyone else's, but it works in a way you can't explain. You've created a life with its own internal logic. The structure you've built is invisible to outsiders. To them, it might look like chaos or avoidance. To you, it's the only system that doesn't drain you. You've learned to operate outside the world's schedule, and it's brought a strange kind of peace. But the rhythm isolates you further than you planned. You stop fitting into other people's timelines. Plans feel intrusive. Expectations feel unreasonable. You've built something that works, but only when you're alone. And the more it works, the harder it becomes to leave. Your life makes perfect sense in a language only you speak. Your standards shift. Showering becomes something you do every other day instead of every day, and it stops feeling like a compromise. Breakfast is coffee. Dinner is whatever requires the least amount of steps. Getting dressed means putting on something clean enough, not something you'd wear outside. Your baseline for fine has drifted so gradually you didn't notice the adjustment. What used to feel like bare minimum now feels like maintenance. What used to feel like a bad day now feels like normal. But the shift leaves a gap you can't quite locate. You're not depressed exactly, you're functional. But functional has quietly redefined itself. The standards have lowered in ways that feel practical, not sad. And maybe that's the strangest part. It doesn't bother you the way you think it should. Your voice feels foreign. You say something out loud, and the sound of it startles you slightly. The syllables come out rougher than expected, catching in your throat like you haven't spoken in longer than you thought. You clear your throat and try again, but it still doesn't sound quite like you. Your voice has been resting unused, existing only in your head where it's clearer, more certain. Out loud, it feels exposed, too quiet or too loud, never quite calibrated right. And this tiny disconnect shifts something deeper. You start avoiding phone calls not because you don't want to talk, but because speaking feels like relearning a small skill you've let go dormant. Even ordering food or answering a question feels effortful. Your voice isn't just quiet, it's unfamiliar. The silence becomes easier than the sound of yourself breaking it. Rewriting messages you never send. You rehearse a response in your head and decide it's not worth sending anymore. The text sits half-written in the message box, cursor blinking at the end of a sentence you've rewritten 3 times. Your thumb hovers over the keyboard, then pulls back slowly. Your brain has learned to simulate interactions before they happen, testing every possible reaction, every awkward silence, every misunderstood tone. It's easier to play it out internally than risk the unpredictability of an actual exchange. And this tiny pattern leaves a deeper mark than you expect. You start editing yourself in real time, even in your own thoughts. The imaginary conversations become more vivid than the real ones. Sometimes you forget which version actually happened, the one you rehearsed or the one that took place. The rehearsal feels like preparation, but it's become its own destination. Losing track of time. You check the clock and 3 hours have disappeared without any clear memory of what filled them. The light in your room has shifted from gray to amber, but you didn't notice the transition. Your water glass is empty now, though you don't remember drinking it. When every day follows the same loose rhythm, your brain stops marking moments as distinct. There's no Monday energy or Friday relief, just a long, unbroken stretch where morning and evening blur into one continuous present. But the formlessness leaves its fingerprints on you. You lose the ability to estimate how long anything takes. 5 minutes and 50 minutes feel identical. Weeks collapse into what feels like days. You start forgetting not just what you did, but when you did it, or if you did it at all. Time doesn't move forward anymore. It pools. The notification anxiety. Your phone lights up and your stomach tightens before you even see who it's from. You want to check, you don't want to check. You stare at the screen, paralyzed by something that should be simple. The notification sits there, waiting, while you calculate whether you have the energy to respond. Solitude has turned connection into something that feels both precious and threatening. You miss people, but contact disrupts the delicate rhythm you've created. Every message is a demand you're not sure you can meet, and this tension splits you in two. You refresh your feed hoping for something, then feel relieved when nothing needs a response. You want to be remembered, but you also want to be left alone. The contradiction sits heavy in your chest, unresolved. You're lonely for people you're too tired to reach. You forget how to be casual. Someone asks how you've been and your mind goes blank. The question feels enormous suddenly, like it requires a full report. You hesitate too long before answering, and the pause itself becomes awkward. You settle on fine, but it comes out stiff. Small talk used to be automatic, something you could do without thinking. Now it feels like a script you've forgotten, full of timing and tone you can't quite replicate. Every light exchange feels like a test you're underprepared for, and this small loss changes how you move through the world. You start dreading casual encounters, the neighbor in the hallway, the barista making conversation, the coworker asking about your weekend. Not because you dislike people, but because you've lost the muscle memory for ease. Every interaction requires more effort than it used to. Being relaxed has become something you have to perform. Sensory sensitivity spike. The grocery store lights feel too bright, almost aggressive. The hum of the refrigerator section buzzes louder than it should. Someone's cart squeaks past you, and the sound lingers in your chest longer than makes sense. Your nervous system has recalibrated to the muted environment of your space. Out here, everything registers as too much, too sharp, too sudden, too loud. Your senses have been resting in dim light and controlled sound for so long that normal stimulation feels like an assault, and this recalibration doesn't announce itself until you're already overwhelmed. You find yourself flinching at things that wouldn't have bothered you before. Conversations feel louder, crowds feel denser, even music through headphones needs to be softer now. Your tolerance has narrowed to the exact width of your solitude. Social hangover. You feel drained by an invitation you haven't even responded to yet. The message sits unopened, but the weight of it is already pressing against your chest. Your energy drops just imagining the small talk, the timing, the effort of being present. Your mind has started spending energy on hypothetical interactions, burning through your reserves before anything actually happens. The anticipation becomes its own exhausting event, but the fatigue is real, even when the interaction isn't. You start counting the cost of things that haven't occurred yet. A coffee meetup feels like a 3-hour commitment before you've even said yes. A phone call becomes an afternoon you'll need to recover from. The future feels heavier than the present. You're tired from a life you're only imagining. The delayed reaction pattern. You feel sad on a Wednesday about something that happened on a Sunday. The emotion arrives late, disconnected from its source, like mail that took too long to deliver. You sit there trying to trace it back, unsure why you suddenly feel heavy. Without external rhythm or social cues to process things in real time, your emotions drift. They marinate in silence, circling back hours or days later when you're doing something completely unrelated. But the delay makes everything harder to name. You can't tell if you're upset about now or then. You start doubting whether what you're feeling is even valid because the moment has already passed. Your emotional responses feel out of sync with your life, like a soundtrack that doesn't match the scene. Your feelings arrive when they're ready, not when you are. Objects become companions. Your coffee mug sits in the same spot every morning, and moving it feels wrong somehow. The blanket on the couch has a specific fold. The book on the table hasn't moved in weeks, but its presence is comforting in a way you don't fully understand. When you spend enough time alone, the things around you stop being just objects. They become markers of your routine, witnesses to your days, silent participants in your life. They hold space in a way that feels almost like company, and this subtle shift makes leaving harder than it should. You start feeling a strange loyalty to your environment. Rearranging feels like a betrayal. Replacing something worn feels like losing a friend. Your space has become so familiar that even small changes create a low hum of discomfort. The emptiness has learned to hold you gently. The permission problem. You stand by the door for a full minute before leaving, running through reasons why going out makes sense today. The keys are already in your hand, your shoes are on, but something in you needs the errand to be justified, necessary, not optional. Leaving your space has become a decision that requires evidence. Your brain now treats the outside world as something that needs to earn your presence, rather than a place you naturally move through. But this shift changes more than you realize. You start declining invitations not because you don't want to go, but because you can't build a strong enough case for why you should. The default answer becomes no. Staying feels neutral. Leaving feels like a disruption you have to defend. Your walls have become both boundary and permission slip. Since you watched till the end, make sure you're subscribed for more.